Do you know that the very clothes you give out with a good heart can sometimes be used to harm you? This is not a joke. Let me tell you the story of Miriam, a young woman whose kindness almost destroyed her future. Once upon a time, there lived a young woman named Miriam. She had worked hard all her life and her dream was about to come true. Miriam had finally gotten her visa and scholarship to study abroad. In the days before her departure, Miriam decided to share her joy. She packed most of her fine clothes, shoes and bags and began to give them out to friends, neighbors and even family friends. She believed blessings should not be hoarded but shared. Yet, in the shadows of her kindness, an envious heart was watching. On the morning of her flight, Miriam dressed simply and took her carry-on bag. Her mother, Mama Nkechi, hugged her tightly and prayed for her. "Go well, my daughter. May no evil come near you," she whispered. But as Miriam set out for the airport, strange things began to happen. First, her car broke down on the road. Then, when she boarded a taxi, the driver had a sudden argument with the police. By the time she reached the airport, her heart was already heavy, but she forced herself to smile. Inside the airport, Miriam queued like every other traveler. She was almost through security when suddenly the security man came to her. "Madam, open your bag," one officer demanded. Miriam's hand trembled as they unzipped her carry-on. Inside, neatly tucked between her clothes, was a small nylon containing white powder. "Drugs!" the officer shouted. The crowd gasped. Miriam's world crumbled. She cried, she pleaded, she swore she had never seen such a thing, but her voice was drowned in the sea of accusation. That was how her dream froze on the spot, and the cold hands of shame wrapped around her. Before she could blink, Miriam was handcuffed. Her passport was seized. Reporters were already flashing cameras. Imagine the shame. A girl who worked so hard was now branded a criminal. She was dragged away, tears streaming down her cheeks, her lips whispering, "God, why me?" But after long hours of questioning, when nothing else was found on her, she was released on bail. Yet, the damage was already done. Her flight was gone and her reputation was wounded. When Miriam returned home, her mother, Mama Nkechi, broke down in tears. But their ill luck was just getting started. Not long after the airport incident, news traveled to her elder sister Kate, who was living abroad. Hearing all that Miriam had suffered, Kate quickly sent a parcel home. Clothes, shoes, toiletries, and even a little money. The day the package arrived, Miriam's heart lifted, even only for a moment. She called Ngozi and her closest friend Choma to come share in the joy. "My sister has remembered us," Miriam said softly, her eyes brimming with tears. "She sent all these goodies not just for me, but for all of us." She handed Ngozi a new set of jeans and gave Choma a fine pair of shoes. They all hugged her tightly. For the first time in many weeks, laughter returned to their home. But besties, joy in this world is like smoke. It rises, but the wind can scatter it at any moment. The very next morning, the phone rang. It was Kate, her voice trembling across the line. "Miriam, Mama, pray for me," she cried. "My husband is being investigated at work. They are saying we might be deported." Miriam's face fell. Miriam's mother grabbed her wrapper and tied it tighter around her waist. "My children, this is no longer ordinary. We must go for prayers. We cannot sit here and watch our family sink one by one." "Who wants to destroy my children? Who wants to bury their destinies?" she wailed. That night, no one in their household slept. Neighbors whispered, tongues wagged, and the people who had once envied her success now sneered behind closed doors. Mama Nkechi decided the matter was no longer ordinary. She took her daughter by hand and said, "We must go and see our pastor." The pastor prayed with fire, pacing the altar as Miriam and her mother answered amen. Suddenly he stopped. His eyes sharpened like lightning as he looked straight at Miriam. "My daughter," he said slowly, "the hand that fought your destiny is not far. It is a woman close to this family, a woman who took your clothes, not with gratitude, but with envy." The pastor turned. "Her name is Ngozi." Miriam and her mother gasped. Mama Nkechi staggered back, clutching her chest. "Ngozi, our own family friend? The one we trusted?" Miriam's knees weakened. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "No, not her. Mama, not her." But the pastor's words were final. She went to a dark place, to a herbalist, using the very clothes you gave her as a point of contact. She vowed that as long as she could not rise, you too would not rise. Mama Nkechi cried out loud, falling to her knees. "Ngozi, Ngozi, we carried her like blood, and is this how she repays us?" The pastor continued, "Your mistake was that you gave her the cloth without praying. Not everyone who smiles at your gift rejoices with you. Some see your blessings as an insult and your kindness as mockery." Miriam and her mother cried out their eyes. They could not be consoled, but the pastor prayed for them and encouraged them to keep praying and not to lose hope. That same evening, Miriam and Mama Nkechi went to confront Ngozi at her home. She welcomed them with her usual fake smile, but before she could speak, Mama Nkechi burst out. "Ngozi, why have you done this to my child? Why have you done this to my children? Why did you use her clothes to destroy her destiny?" Ngozi's eyes widened in false shock. "Me, Mama Nkechi, how can you say such a thing? Am I not like family to you?" Miriam stepped forward, her eyes red with tears. "Ngozi, the pastor saw it. God revealed it. Stop pretending. You framed me. You tied our star. Why?" For a moment, Ngozi tried to hold her ground, but the weight of their words broke her. Her face twisted with bitterness as she screamed, "Yes, I did it. I was tired of watching Miriam shine while I had nothing. Every time she smiled, I felt mocked. When she gave me her clothes, I saw it as an insult, as if she was saying I was beneath her. So I went to the herbalist. I wanted her to feel pain. I wanted her to lose everything." Mama Nkechi wailed and slapped her chest. "Ngozi, we fed you, we sheltered you, and you repay us with wickedness." Ngozi sank into a chair, her hands shaking, but there was no more hiding. The truth had been spoken, and the wound it left could never be forgotten. Miriam, her mother and her sisters prayed, they fasted, they cried, but nothing seemed to change. The immigration service later sent Miriam a letter. Her visa had been revoked. Her dreams crumbled like a clay pot in the rain. Miriam went to church, kneeling at the altar, her sobs filling the sanctuary. She remembered the times her mother had suffered to raise money for her traveling expenses. She remembered her mother's wrinkled hands, counting savings just so her child could have a better life. "God, why did you allow this?" she cried. Her tears wet the church floor. That day, she decided to rise again, not with bitterness, but with courage. She found a small job in town. The pay was little, but she worked with dignity. Slowly, she began to rebuild her shattered life. Months later, on a cool afternoon, a letter arrived. It was someone from the customs office. Miriam's hands trembled as she read it. "What again?" she whispered. At the office, stern-looking officials ushered her into a room. On the table was a laptop. One of them clicked play. It was surveillance footage from the airport, the very day of her arrest. Miriam watched herself on screen carrying her bag, smiling nervously. Then another scene appeared. A woman holding a baby carrier was struggling with the straps. Miriam, being kind-hearted, had stopped to help her buckle it. But as she bent down to help the woman slipped her hand into Miriam's carry-on bag. The official paused the video. They zoomed in. Clear as daylight, the woman was seen dropping a nylon of powder inside Miriam's bag. My God, Miriam whispered, covering her mouth. The officials turned to her. Miss Miriam, you were framed. Her name was cleared, her visa was reinstated, and not only that, the authorities awarded her compensation for the trauma and injustice she had faced. Miriam wept, not from sorrow this time, but from relief. She rushed home, fell on her knees, and hugged her mother tightly. Mama, God has fought for me, she cried. Mama Kechi raised her hands to heaven. When man says it is finished, God says it is just the beginning. Besties, you see, when a person plants evil, the harvest will surely return to their doorstep. One night, not long after Miriam's vindication, tragedy struck at Ngozi's house. The husband, who ran a small dry cleaning business from their home, had left iron plugged in. A spark turned into a flame, and before dawn, the entire house was swallowed by fire. Ngozi screamed as she watched the flames rise higher, devouring clothes, machines, furniture, everything they had labored for. Neighbors gathered, but the fire was too fierce. Buckets of water did nothing. By the time it was over, only ashes remained. Ngozi and her husband stood in the street, barefoot, their children crying. The same woman who once mocked Miriam now had nothing but the wrapper tied around her chest. She ran to people for help, to friends, to neighbors, even to the same relative she once boasted before. Please give me clothes for my children. Please help me with food. Please give me somewhere to sleep, she begged. But one by one, they turned her away. Some pretended not to hear. Others whispered, is this not the woman who envied another person's blessings? Look at her now. Ngozi wept bitterly, her tears mixing with the dust of the ground. The bitterness she had poured into Miriam's life had returned to her tenfold. And so, my besties, the story turned. While Miriam was slowly rising again, Ngozi was sinking into shame. For the same hands that once charmed her clothes in envy were now stretched out in desperation, but no one came to her rescue. Miriam's sister Kate and her husband had miraculously had the issue resolved, and they had no issues abroad. When fire burns the innocent, the guilty will one day sit in its ashes. Not every hand you bless will bless you back. Sometimes, kindness without wisdom can open the door to envy and attack. Tell me, have you ever seen envy destroy someone's life? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your story might save another person. If you enjoyed this story, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if you haven't. I share intriguing African stories on this channel. Share this story with a friend or two and click on this story on your screen. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. See you there.